So, do you believe that you are the creator of your own experience? Yes. Many of you are coming to that. Do you believe that you are vibrational beings? Yes. Do you believe that your guidance system lets you know what you're doing vibrationally? And do you understand that you can change the way you feel even if circumstances haven't changed? That's the hardest one, but you can, but it takes practice. Oh, you were really good. Yes, you said. Yes, you said. Yes, you said, till we asked the most important question. Then it was very quiet. And the reason that you were not able to wholeheartedly say, yes, I believe that I can change the way I feel even though circumstances have not changed, the reason that that's harder for you to say is because in practicing what is, it becomes such a strong point of attraction. And then you try to make too big of a vibrational jump. And then law of attraction doesn't help you, and then you feel like you're doing something wrong. For example, let's say that something has happened and you are feeling powerless. You're feeling some true despair. And you have a friend who's been studying Abraham, who you wish would fall off the face of the earth. Because this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, fluffy-faced, rainbow, sunshine lollipop, too happy to stand person says to you, you know you create your own reality. And you want to say, I wouldn't do this to me. There must be something screwy in whoever this Abraham person is that's giving you this garbage. So what we are getting at here is that in the same way that you can't set your radio tuner on 98.6 and hear what's being broadcast from some other frequency, you can't make a big vibrational jump from where you are to where you want to be just because you want to be there. Now, you could change the subject and feel better. You do that all the time. You could have a good night's sleep and wake up with a little different vibrational orientation. You do that all the time too. But if you've got something really stuck in your craw, something that you've been thinking about and stewing about and worrying about and talking about, you've got a very active vibration going on within you. And your point of attraction is about the active vibrations. You're not like a file cabinet. But every thought that you've ever thought, you still have access to. And when you get a thought really buzzing within you, what happens, have you noticed? You can get going on something, and before you know it, everybody seems to be talking to you about it. You turn on the television, there it is again. You pick up a newspaper, there it is again. You say, the whole world has the same issue. And we say, fortunately, that isn't true, but it just seems like that to you because you've got it so active in your vibration that law of attraction is saying, here's some more, here's some more, here's some more, here's some more, here's some more. And then the more you get, the more you look at it, the more you look at it, the more you talk about it, the more you talk about it, the more you look at it, the more you look at it, the more you vibrate about it, the more you're stewing around in it, the more you're activating it. Activating it is the dominant word here. The more you are activating it, the more it is your point of attraction. The more it is your point of attraction, the more it is manifesting in your experience. And then you say, see, I knew that was true. And we say, everything's true that you make active in your vibration. Don't get hung up on this truth thing. Don't start being someone who starts gathering statistics and then noting the statistics and then making those statistics your truth. Choose the statistics that really thrill you and make those your truth, but do not make the statistics that do not thrill you your truth. Whatever you focus upon becomes your truth. Law of attraction says you are free to do that. But your guidance system says you're free to do that, but when you do that, when you make something your truth that you do not want, that is not a vibrational match to who you really are, you will feel vibrational discord. You can create anything you give your attention to, but it won't feel good if it's not in sync with who you really are. So, you've got this magnificent guidance system. Magellan says to Jerry and Esther, if they get turned around going the wrong way, sometimes after a fuel stop, they'll change drivers, and Jerry will say, I didn't know there were 2 round Holiday Inns in Austin. Then they will realize they're circling the city. Magellan will say, when possible, make a legal U-turn. That's Magellan's polite way of saying you're going the wrong way. And the way it turns up in your guidance system is it doesn't feel so good. It feels like negative emotion when you're not going in the direction that you desire or the direction that is really you. It doesn't feel good. So today, as we are moving forward, we're going to accomplish two things here together. First, we'll help you to become more aware of your guidance system. Sometimes you say, I'm not sure how I feel. And we say, that's only because you're not focusing and feeling on purpose. If you're all over the place and feeling all over the place, then you sort of have a frenzy going on. And you say, well, I just generally don't feel all that good. And we say, well, that should be a clue right there, because you're supposed to feel really, really good. You're supposed to feel wonderful. You're supposed to feel adventurous. Esther was watching a little child, maybe a year old, in a restaurant last evening. And the child was there with mother and with grandmother and grandfather. And no matter what they were doing, the child sat there with a smile on its face. It was just glad to be alive. It was just glad to see the spoon. It was just glad to touch the salt shaker. This baby was just glad to be sitting in that chair. It was glad when Grandma picked it up. It was glad when Grandpa picked it up. It was glad when Mother picked it up. It was glad when Mother went to the bathroom. It was glad when Mother came back from the bathroom. It was glad when it spotted Esther. It was glad when it spotted Jerry. It was glad when it spotted the waiter. It was glad when it was eating. It was happy when it wasn't eating. It was just happy. And Esther was looking at this little baby thinking, that's exactly the way we're supposed to feel. That's exactly the way it's supposed to feel. That baby feels free, secure, and glad to be alive. It was evident in everything that oozed from that baby. And as Esther watched the baby, Esther was glad to pick up her spoon. She was glad to touch the salt shaker. She was glad to sit in her chair. She was glad when she looked at Jerry. As Esther watched this little baby demonstrating, as all these powerful little teachers do when they first get here before they learn from you, Esther said, I remember that fresh feeling, that feeling where everything looked okay, where I wasn't worried about anything, where I didn't stop and read the headlines in the newspaper stands and take an emotional hit to it, where I didn't hear somebody abusing someone, or I didn't hear something on the television, or I didn't have a negative response to something that was happening. You all are glad to be here at some level of your being. And today we want to help you to peel off the layers of the onions and bring yourself back to that glad person, to that person who again believes in your natural well-being. Because there is a stream of well-being that is flowing to you at such powerful impetus, it is amazing that you manage to let it miss you ever. The stream is huge. Look at what's taking place here. Do you know how much thought has gone before that equals the manifestation that you are about? Do you know how many billions upon billions upon billions of leading edge creators have stood in similar places where you stand and have allowed their natural preferences to be born, that has summoned life force, that has made your leading edge place even better for you than it was for the generation before you and before that and before that? The energy stream that supports us all, that you have access to, this creative stream, is supposed to feel good to you while you apply it to your creative endeavor. And if it doesn't, it's only because you've practiced some screwy thoughts. So when possible, make a legal U-turn. Today we're going to show you how you can make that U-turn and how to do it gently enough that you don't fling yourself off in the bushes. We want to show you how, rather than trying to make quantum leaps, you just reach for the best feeling thought that you have access to. And sometimes, you know, from that place of very powerful despair, the best feeling thought that you have access to is far from bliss and joy. It's far from peace and contentment and satisfaction. It's even far from frustration. It's down here in the revenge range. So if you were in true despair about something, maybe something has happened that has rendered you feeling utterly powerless. If you were to choose rage on purpose and feel yourself begin to breathe again, would you say you've made a good choice? We would. Most of society would not. Most of society would rather you were depressed. Because when you're powerless and depressed, you slink off and leave everyone alone. You're not a problem to society. But when you start trying to regain your power and you get into that mode of rage or anger, now you're not so nice to be with. But from our point of view, you have made a good decision. The question is, did you do it on purpose? And if you did do it on purpose, can you stop long enough to say, I have deliberately chosen this thought of anger or rage, and I feel better in this thought than I did in my depression and despair and powerlessness. I'm happy for the control I have regained. Because if you can stop and say, I did it on purpose, and I'm happy for the control that I have gained, and I'm going to keep reaching now for a thought that feels even better than this, now you realize there is no place you cannot go. But if you were in despair and you just discovered rage and anger, as you often do because your guidance system guides you to it, it's a sort of natural self-survival instinct. As you discovered it, but you didn't know that you did it on purpose, you didn't know how you got there, then what happens so often is you just bounce back and forth from despair and powerlessness to rage, to despair and powerlessness to rage, and then they give you some label and lock you up somewhere and say that you are a menace to society, when you were just doing what any natural joy-seeking being would do who couldn't reach joy from that place. Joseph Campbell coined the best words we've ever heard uttered from physical mouth when he said, follow your bliss. But sometimes you do not have access to bliss from where you are. And if you're reaching for bliss when you are in a vibration so far from it and you cannot find it, then sometimes you feel lost again. So what we want to encourage you to do is begin saying, I can get to wherever I want to be, but right now I'm just going to reach for the best feeling thought that I have access to right now. And when you get there, announce to everybody, I am so angry I could wring your neck, and I feel so much better than I did earlier. And then if you have it within you, you might say to them, I will try to restrain myself, but meanwhile you might want to go someplace else. Eventually I will be in frustration, and then I will be in appreciation. But right now I am in anger, and I like it here. I did it on purpose. And those are the key words. I did this on purpose. Watch your children. Watch anybody who finds themselves in a place where they feel powerless. In fact, this entire range of emotions. Oh, let's talk about some of them. So here is despair and powerlessness. And then not too far from that is a feeling of rage. And not too far from that is anger. There are lots of degrees of anger. And then you can get into that place that you would call frustration, overwhelmment. Then you could get into pessimism, hopefulness, optimism. Then you could get into appreciation, belief, even those feelings that you call love, even those feelings that you call knowing, into that place that you call empowerment or well-being. And of course, there are many, many words that we did not speak. And sometimes the word doesn't mean the same thing to you that it means to somebody else. But that's the general vibrational range. We like to call it the emotional range. But on the far end of emotion, where you are truly connected to who you really are, there is one word that stands out above all others, and it is the word empowerment. It is the word free. It is the word being in complete alignment with the energy that is you. It is the only place that freedom exists, is in that vibrational place where you, who hold all of the power to you, nobody else does, where you have discovered the way to create within yourself a pattern of vibration that allows you full connection to who you really are. That's the only place that you can ever be free. Nobody else can give it to you. You have to do it to yourself. And on the other end of that, on the far other end of that, is the feeling of disempowerment. It's the feeling of powerlessness.